Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian from Whisper Status 74. This is my first impressions video of the Vizio Quantum X P-Series 2019 at 75 inches. I've had the display for a little under a week now. This is only my second video on it. The first video was just the LG C9 demo, demonstrating some of the black levels. This will be my first impressions of how I felt about it, literally getting it out of the box. I've talked to some of you guys in the comments about it in detail already, and I've been talking about the Vizio Quantum X P-Series since CES last year and covered the Quantum P-Series the year before. So I'm no stranger to the display. Why I wanted the display was it kind of goes with the way I wanted LEDs to go. High peak brightness, high zone count, high contrast ratio. And that's what intrigued me about this display and this company. Quickly about me, if you don't know me, welcome, I'm Brian. This is a tech channel, tech therapy channel for people that are real displays for real people, for regular people. It's not overly analytical. But the reason why I want to explain to you who I am before I go into this display is what my preference is. And it's very important that when you're listening to anybody talk about a review, what do they favor? What do they like personally? And I think that's so important when you pick out a display is, number one, what is your usage? What are you using it for primarily? Break that down into percentages. Number two, where is the display going to be located in your home? Who is going to be using it? And number three, what is your taste? What do you like specifically? Aside from reviews, aside from this is the best or that is the best, you can only hear so many reviews and read so many numbers that we get hypnotized by that and we forget what we like. You might not like a bright image. If you're somebody that hears OLED is amazing time and time again, you might realize, hey, I don't actually like that image. I went through that with plasma. Plasma was such an amazing technology that when I got into it, at first I was a little underwhelmed. I realized it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Now I grew to love plasma and I am a huge plasma fan, but initially I had to recognize that I liked saturation, I liked brighter images, I liked some of that. Now, my actual preference isn't just that. So a lot of reviewers you see, professional reviewers, whether it's artthings.com or Vincent at HTV Test, they each have their own taste. Somebody like Vincent is more accuracy. Things have to be accurate, color accurate, image accurate. I'm somewhere in the middle. I do like saturation. I do like colorful images. I do like vibrancy. I'm not afraid to have soap opera effect here and there. I like edge enhancement here and there. So to me, it's the content that dictates that. If it's very high content, if it's animation, I might like that better. If it's a classic movie, obviously I turn all that stuff off. The reason of giving you where I'm coming from is it's very important when we talk about my thoughts on the Vizio Quantum XP series. One, out of the box, I like the styling of it. It's very simple. It's very similar to the 2018 P-Series Quantum. Before I continue, this is not a full review. The best part about having a small channel like myself is that this is mine. It's not going back in a day. I don't have to return it back to Vizio. I also don't have to keep it. I have a couple friends that want to buy it and also have a family member that's ready to take it because the panel is free of defects as of now. So I have unlimited time with it. I have a long time with it. So we'll be doing videos every day or every other day on this and many other topics. But this is going to be a long one. That's why it's in 1080p as I hold the remote, which is very basic. But that's what I want to tell you is I know you have questions and I'd love to hear those questions in the comments. Also, if you're new to the channel or if you've been part of this channel for a long time and you haven't jumped in the comments, don't be shy. I value your perspective. I value your opinion. Jump in those comments, say hello, let me know what you think. You're not going to get killed in the comments. I watch the comments very carefully. I do not allow people to be abused in the comments, and the community itself is pretty vigilant as far as keeping that kind of stuff away. So if you have something to say, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, just say what you feel, and I really do value your opinions and your perspective. This is a very controversial display. One, it's a Vizio. Same with TCL and Hisense. Some people hate them right out the box just because they are what they are. I'm completely objective when it comes to them. I've had my experiences with Vizio. I've had good experiences and I've had not great experiences. I went into this knowing way too much about the display from all the information you've read, all the comparisons that you have seen. What I had to do is once I got it home, I had to erase that out of my mind and start from scratch and literally give it that pure objective view. It's nice to have that information and to have all the numbers that so many of us pore over, but once you have the display in your house, you need to kind of wipe that away and say, what do I like? What is it that I personally like and don't like? The Vizio Quantum XP series is an absolute beast. I mean, it is a monster as far as how powerful it is how bright it is, how black it gets as far as the black levels. The contrast ratio is off the charts. And the hate that this display has gotten has been interesting. A lot of reviewers have given it nothing but positive reviews, and a lot of smaller reviewers have absolutely hated it. I've had people in the community that absolutely love it, and I've had people say they took it out of the box, it's garbage, they send it back. I don't think any of those people on any channel in this community are wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about what I see and what you see and what we come to together and discuss. It's a beast as far as what it does and what it does well. But that is probably its biggest weakness, is that it is brute force in everything that it does. I love it for that. There's also issues with it that that's what makes it flawed. And that's what I think so many reviewers have seen and have immediately dismissed it. We're going to talk about blooming out of the box. Now, guys, blooming is the buzzword. It's been around for years. It's become very popular this year more than ever since we've gotten away from edge-lit displays. Flashlighting, edge lighting isn't something people talk about. It's been blooming. 950G, blooming, this, blooming, that, blooming. Blooming is what you see around bright objects for a moment. It could be in the black bars. It could be in the middle of the screen. It's really the local dimming, trying to turn certain parts of the screen on and darken others. Some displays do it very well, but crush blacks. Others don't do it so well, and there is blooming everywhere. What you have to keep in mind with a lot of these new displays, especially with Sony and with Vizio, is their local dimming is completely disabled when they're in menus. So if you're in YouTube or you're in video game menus or Netflix, you will see blooming everywhere. Out of the box with YouTube, I mean, the blooming is every time you highlight. And what's funny is that when you settle on content, even before you enable content, when one of the boxes on YouTube starts to play, the display immediately tries to darken. It immediately says, okay, there's content playing. And then when you go away, it brightens back up. Okay, content's not playing. So the local dimming is effective, but it's not elegant, meaning that it's so strong, it doesn't know when always to control the image. And I noticed that in between jumping in and out of YouTube, it would immediately darken, thinking I was playing content. So it gets confused. So a lot of you that have the Sony displays, I'm not sure how Samsung handles that now, but the local dimming is completely off when content is not playing. It also has a little bit of a delay when content does start. So when you have, say, Universal Studios or the beginning of the channel logo, the local dimming doesn't kick in, and then there's a banner, an info banner at the top of the screen that will tell you if it's HDR, if it's Dolby Vision, what it's doing. That converging together causes chaos, meaning that it doesn't know if it's darkening, so everything will bloom. You will see blooming in the banners, you'll see blooming, and you've seen it on YouTube with other reviewers. Once that stuff is off the screen, it is black as night. The black bars are black. They are the blackest I have ever seen on an LED. I had the 940E, I had the KS9800. It is as black, if not more black, when it wants to be. That has really been the challenge with movie watching. This thing for movie watching, Blu-ray, 4K, Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus, high quality, it's really, really hard to beat. I mean, it really, really is gorgeous as far as its colors, the way it processes. The problem with it is pretty interesting, actually. That local dimming with black bars is amazing how it controls the light. This demo is the Munsell HDR, this one here. Oh, excuse me. It'll be backwards, but you know, what is the name of this thing? Oh, the Spears and Muscle. That HDR benchmarking tool has complete black in here with owls, and this is what you see on the screen right now. That light is just the light from the camera. It is black. It is near OLED black, where the delineation between light and dark meet. There is no halo. There is no black crush. Where it struggles, actually, is in full screen with Aquaman, which is a very vibrant picture. I could see at the edges of the screen, the local dimming didn't know if it was supposed to be light or dark, which is rare. Normally, with full screen content, it's even the worst displays look fantastic. I noticed that it struggled a little bit. Also, getting to know the settings. Local dimming on this display does not mean what other displays mean. Local dimming on high here highlights the dark images versus turning on the zones to make it darker. Local dimming on my Sony 900E, I always have on high. Local dimming on this I found was better at medium or low, where high actually brought highlights into the dark images. Now they do explain it through the settings, which is nice, but that is a little bit confusing and the opposite of what so many of us realize. I have not found any problems with motion without motion interpolation turned on. They do have motion as judder and motion blur that you can enable to create the soap opera effect. Watching movies like Ready Player One during that battle, turning that motion off, the display handled it very well. I didn't see any judder or any problems. Enabling it to give you that soap opera effect didn't create the artifacting I would see with Sony or Samsung where there was a little blur. It created a little bit of a choppy effect, which was interesting. So if you're somebody that really likes motion interpolation or a soap opera effect, I'm going to have to do more research on it, and we'll do that, how to enable it to make it work correctly to where you feel that's still almost artificial image without the judder. This judder was just kind of choppy versus the artifacting. Again, guys, this is a first video on it. I'm still learning as I go. But it's very important that we'll be doing every step. We'll be doing videos on Dolby Vision, HDR10+, its gaming performance, its presets, its lack of, its OS. I will say that Netflix going through the Vizio looks stunning. Altered Carbon, which is everybody's go-to for Dolby Vision, was mind-blowing. It was as impressive to me as it was on the B8 that I had here a few months ago. It was extremely bright. It was extremely dark. Comparing it to the 900E, which was running HDR10, and this is due to the contrast ratio, the 900E looked brighter. And my kids were laughing because the 900E looked brighter. But why did it look brighter? It was the contrast ratio and the Dolby Vision of the Vizio Quantum XP series, making the very bright, brighter than the 900E, but the blacks stayed black without crushing the detail. So looking at the 900E, it looked brighter, but the control here really showed you that it was a better image. It was just a more detailed image. The Dolby Vision definitely trumped the HDR10. And it was amazing that the contrast ratio, that's what it's all about, is making it bright when it's supposed to be bright. So as far as the streaming aspect of it, excellent. It did phenomenal. Movies, phenomenal. I will say one thing I don't love about it is the settings or lack of settings. So when you look at it, it has a few different color temperatures, computer, normal, and cool. To me, that's not nearly enough. As far as its wide color gamut, it has one of the widest color gamuts that was tested this year. It's not the most colorful display in terms of a QLED. When we think QLED, I immediately think Samsung. I immediately think vibrant and very, very colorful. This display has a much more natural tone, more similar to Sony, but the difference is Sony has live color and some other settings. If you really want it to look more like a Samsung, you can enable those. I haven't found that to be the case here with the settings. You can change the tint and the hue. It just changes the accuracy, but I haven't found a way to really juice up the color to make it look like those other displays. And I'm in calibrated dark is the mode that I like the best. I find that the modes differ extraordinarily from each other. Hold on one second to put that content. Sorry, my Panasonic player doing way too good a job of just shutting off after being up too long. The settings I found to be very different from each other, and I didn't love all of them. The Vizio P series I had in 2016 had vibrancy when needed, but a lot of times it had a little bit of a dull image. And that's where I mean too much of a good thing. When you're talking about something being so ultra bright and having a high contrast ratio, that in tandem with the local dimming can create a washed out image at times. Now, if there's an issue with that, that is probably the Achilles heel I've discovered so far. It's so bright. It's trying so hard. I don't think it knows when exactly to be black. To give you an example, Aliens is HDR10 plus the 40th, I think it's the 40th anniversary Blu-ray. It's a very tough Blu-ray to watch in the sense that in the beginning, it's super grainy. As the film starts, it's clean as can be, and then it gets grainy again. It's an old film. It's a beautiful film. But the beginning wreaked total havoc on it because you had the banner, you had the logo, then you had the really big credits in the beginning of the film, and the local dimming had no idea what to do. It was bright, it was dark, it didn't know what was happening. Once the content started, those black bars were midnight black. So it's interesting. If you're only watching a little bit, you have to almost give it a little bit of time to warm up. And that's what I mean about elegance. It's when it works, it's amazing. It's so dark, but it doesn't crush blacks, as I saw on Pacific Rim in the very beginning of that film, when the main character's talking about looking up at the sky and you see the stars, and the stars are actually bubbles. There was no lost stars. I compared it to the Sony 900E. I compared it to my plasma. The stars were all in check. Where we know with a lot of these displays now, they do crush the stars with their local dimming. Did not happen with the Panasonic, the Quantum XP series. This is also a Panasonic UB820. I think it's 820. Is the Blu-ray player that I'm using. Excellent player, by the way. So, as far as movie watching and streaming, it's awesome. The local dimming is a little bit erratic. I have not seen what a lot of people have said, where I have not seen the local dimming pan, meaning if something's crossing the screen, I have not seen that transition happen. I also haven't seen a lot of the color gradients issue that a lot of reviewers have seen. Now, I think a lot of that, now here we're looking at, that is as, typically it's red and green. This is 4K. This is the benchmark disc. This is Dolby Vision native. I say native 8K. But the color banding I've seen maybe in movies is probably a mixture between the film, the grain in film. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I've seen a little pixelation in some screens that I'll have to compare, but it wasn't enough to really distract me, and I don't see it on these demo discs. It could be because they're actual 4K. They're not a 2K upscale. Native 4K, it makes all the difference in the world. So the gradation has not been distracting thus far. I will say my usage is 90% gaming. I am in a small little home theater room. This room is pitch black. So we have to do some gaming coverage in the next video. I will say that we're going to break down certain films. I can only show you still versions of those films due to copyright. But films like Batman vs. Superman, where my favorite scene is when they confront each other face to face, when Batman or Superman flies up and he uses the heat vision, the brightness will make you look away. And I've had very bright displays in here, the 940E, the KS9800, the KS9000. This tops them. I mean, I literally had to look away, but it still kept the detail. When those cannons are shooting at him, the clarity, amazing. So as far as an HDR performer, Dolby Vision, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, it is very, very impressive. So those are my initial impressions of the Quantum XP series. This is getting to be a long video, as I knew it would be. We're going to walk through every step of this throughout the weeks to come and the months to come. Let me know what you want in the comments, what you're looking for. I know upscaling is a big one. I will get to that. Gaming will be my next video. The gaming performance of this is very interesting, as the game mode is not super vibrant. And that's something that is really, really important to me. But we'll get to that in the next video when we cover games. First impressions, it's a beast. The local dimming is erratic. I think it's amazing, but that is a little bit of an issue. We're going to talk more about it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have this display. I don't care if you love it or if you hate it. If you have some tips for settings, let me know. And I'm open to all of it. If you've never commented before, please comment. Don't be a stranger. I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And let me know what you think about the Quantum XP series, 75 inches. These are my very first impressions of it. So far, very happy with it. No problems yet. I'll let you know every day that we look and do it. There won't be a full review. There will be scatter reviews as we go through. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you as always. Take care.